Hi everyone, Jenny Minnick here. I know I told everyone that I would release the video for the Appalachian Footpath box next, but I did lose my voice, so I hope that you will be patient with me as I try to be true to my word. If you haven't already watched my video on the line share box, I would strongly suggest you go back and review it first. If you did, then you remember that I started by telling the story about Jon and his son, his son enjoying the treasure maps and the treasure hunting, and how I noted that in the end of the Appalachian Footpath chapter near the map, he said something about coming full circle, and that made me think that perhaps the lion's share box and the Appalachian Footpath box were connected. So today I'm going to share with you what happened after that and explain where I think that the Appalachian Footpath box is and how I've come to believe that. Once I found the lion's share box, I immediately realized that the other boxes were probably in similar places. Jon said something about once someone found the first box and saw how it was hidden, that the other boxes would probably soon follow. So my solve for the Appalachian Footpath box is Dollywood. And if you take a look at the Appalachian Footpath box, it definitely looks like Dolly style, very fancy and yet down to earth. It makes sense that the Appalachian Footpath box would be in Dollywood. As Jon told many stories in the book about people who are the greatest of all times. And I think if there was a goat for Appalachia, it would definitely be Dolly. And I think others would agree. If you notice, Jon also gave us a clue. He said to pay attention to names, birthdays, and shared moments. And if you noticed in the news, Dollywood turned 40 and Disneyland turned 70. To begin investigating the connection between the Appalachian Footpath box and the Disneyland, the lion's share, the first thing I did was put the maps side by side to see if I could see anything similar or anything that stuck out. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through my process and explain to you what I did comparing these maps. And then once I show you what I came up with, then I'm going to take you through the treasure walk through the park itself to show you where the X marks the spot is. But just like for the lion's share box, I'm not going to share all my information because just because I'm telling you where the treasure is not enough. There's more to do when you get there. Immediately, I noticed this key looking thing. It kind of looks like a looking glass on the Appalachian Footpath map, but there's also a similar structure in the Disneyland map. Let's see what happens if we put these maps on top of each other. So here we will start with the Disneyland map. Now let's add over top of it the Appalachian Footpath map, and I colored in the red key area there so that we could see the direction of the map was pointing. This overlay makes the key in the position at 6 o'clock. So I looked at the symbols and I said, does anything make sense in the Disneyland area? For example, if you look down in the corner, that wispy looking thing, it could be smoke and it may align with the Main Street fire station, but the rest of the symbols don't make sense. Then I rotated the map so that the key is at 3 o'clock, and I checked this alignment. Still nothing convincing. I tried 12 o'clock. Same thing. I thought about what Jon said about how he said that sometimes we need to take a different look at things from a different perspective. So I flipped the Appalachian Footpath map to its mirror image, and then I tried all of those same clock times again to see what I would find. And sure enough, at 5 o'clock, the symbols all seemed to magically align. And then later, coincidentally, when I was on boots on the ground in Disneyland, I noticed the white rabbit statue, and sure enough, his watch was set at 5 o'clock. Very clever, Jon. Okay, so let's take a look at what these symbols are and what I'm talking about when they make sense. So the first up is this red circled one. And this one is a really difficult one. It looks weird. If you look at it one angle, it looks like a a miner kind of slumped over sitting. And if you turn it around the other way, it actually looks like Jar Jar Binks from Star Wars. So I'm going to assume it could be either or because its position on the Disneyland map is like kind of in between Star Wars and Frontierland. So it could be both. This symbol looks like a tornado or something spinning really fast. It actually shows up in Alice in Wonderland area where the spinning teacups ride is. This butterfly shows up at Pixie Hollow. This wispy thing shows up at Space Mountain, so I'm assuming it's how he drew space. The dog shows up where the Astro ride is, and I don't know if you remember, but there was a space dog on the Jetsons. Do you remember his name? Of course, it was Astro. This one is a little hard to see. It's really small, but if you look, it definitely has the right shape, size, and location to be the flagpole in Disneyland. This rolled up scroll shows up in Adventureland. Perhaps it's a map. The bear, it shows up in Bayou Country, where the Winnie the Pooh things are. If you look at this tiny dash, it has an arrow pointing to it, and if you look closely, you'll see that the dash itself is shaped like a canoe. And in Disneyland, this is where you will find the canoe ride. Okay, so I think we can clearly see that if in the proper position, when the Appalachian Footpath map is overlaid on the Disneyland map, we can get some symbols that make sense. But the question is, can we do the same thing with the Dollywood map? Can we overlay the Appalachian Footpath map over it and see things come into alignment also? Okay, let's start this round the same way we started the last one, with the maps side by side. And I think if you look, you can see there's probably a really good chance that we've got something going on here because I'm seeing some similar shapes, right? But before we go any further, let's step back and remind ourselves what we know so far. So with the information that we have now, using those various symbols around the map, we've been able to pretty much locate the general area of the Appalachian Footpath box, and that would be Dollywood. But now we're going to confirm it, and we're going to look specifically at the walking path only and the symbols directly related to it to find the X marks the spot. This time we're going to start with the Appalachian Footpath map as the base. Because Dollywood is shaped like a triangle, the V-shaped walking path of the Appalachian Footpath map can really go in 3 different directions. And I'm not going to show all of those. I'm just going to show you the final one that I landed on, and you can see it here. Before we walk down the path, let's take a look at the stop and start points on the map. And I've seen a lot of discussion on Facebook going on about these triangles and what they mean. Well, if you look at the Dollywood legend for the Dollywood map, you'll see that triangles mean dining areas. And this tells us that at the starting and stopping point of this walking path, we should find some kind of snack place. And sure enough, there are snack spots at each site. Red's is at the start and Ned's is at the finish. We know where to begin because it says begin here. So once we walk down the path just a little bit, we find our looking glass key, and inside is a tree with a watery reflection image. And if you look in Dollywood, there is a pond area with a tree at the edge of the water at the location shown in the picture. This is another good time to remind you that there is going to be other things on the map that you're going to see, but I'm not necessarily going to touch on because those are for you to figure out. But next up on our walking path is a rolled up scroll looking thing that we talked about before. It could be a map like it was in Disneyland, but it could also be a scroll containing like character lines for a show. And I think it's this in Dollywood because it's located in the Valley Theater location. The next symbol we encounter on the treasure walk is a feather. The resolution isn't the best, and I really couldn't get a good image of it here. It's definitely more identifiable when you look at it on the page in the book with a magnifying glass. But if you look, it has a striated design that resembles an eagle feather. And if you check out the Dollywood map where this feature shows up, you'll find the Wild Eagle Ride. Moving along the path, the next thing we come across, 3 things: a boat, a bear, and rock falls. In the corresponding places on the Dollywood map, you'll see these three things as well. The boat is the Great Swing Ride. Across from it, you'll find the Big Bear Mountain track that passes through a rock waterfall. The walking path on this Appalachian Footpath map ends around Ned's Refresh Station, but just beyond this, you may be able to make out the words highest point. I found a website where I could search the elevation topography for this area, and as you can see, right past Ned's is the area of the highest point. So, if you buy everything I'm suggesting, then Dollywood is the location for the Appalachian Footpath box, and you have the exact walking path to it. For extra help, I made a Pokemon route to show you where this path is. This wasn't part of my solve, like with the other boxes, but just a little something fun to commemorate the experience. The path isn't exact, but it's close enough. So if you're ever in Dollywood and like to play Pokemon Go, check out the route code. I have one more thing to show you. As you know, I took each of the treasure box coins and arranged them in a circle to mark the area on the Disneyland map. I showed this in the video for the Lion's Share Solve too. And if you look closely, you'll see that both the Appalachian Footpath coin and the Appalachian Footpath treasure are in Toontown. Now that you know where X marks the spot is for the Appalachian Footpath box, go claim your treasure. Happy hunting, y'all. Next, I'll share my solve for the Pokemon box. So comment below and let me know what you think so far.